Casper, and Dale Harris returning. Even though he lost, he had the fastest losing time. And boy, he's got a battle coming up, Army, because he's taking on Rod Litzow in the USA 1 Chevrolet. The guy is that is making such a great surge in the point standings right now.
You know, Litzow started off a couple of weeks late on the tour, but he's right at the top of the pile, battling for Bigfoot for this first ever national championship crown in the Monster Truck Series. Running under the colors of True Value Hardware Master Mechanic and the Chevrolet combination. He'll be making a right turn, but Harris out of Mississippi, one of the crowd favorites, a born-again Christian doing a super job. He'll be making a left turn. Coming off the starting line, looks good, Richard.
Well, the thing about Rod Litzow to watch for, he loves exerting that power down the straightaway. Let's watch and see how it happens this time.
Chevrolet half-track, but keep an eye on Casper. He's coming back after him. I don't know who won it. We're coming back topside to you, Richard.
Well, it's official up here. It was Rod Litzow hitting that finish line first. USA 1 Chevrolet, the winner, moves to the semifinals. And you know, Army, in our many travels across the country, we get asked a lot of questions about these monster trucks. One of the biggest questions is about the tires they run.
The tires that they run on these monster trucks actually start life, Richard, on heavy earth-moving equipment. Throughout the United States, as you travel the highways and byways, you see the big equipment. This is where the tires come from. 66-inch tall tires, that's what the rules say they got to run. Dale Harris, who just made a super run, shows why he's one of the crowd favorites. And another interesting thing about the tires you were speaking of, they only run 4 to 6 pounds of air pressure, and the tire itself actually helped to absorb some of the blow.
Well, you know, Army, another fascinating thing about these vehicles, besides front-wheel steering, they are also rear-wheel steered.
You know, this is the only motorsport that we know of where the rear steering is mandatory. If you're going to be competitive, you got to steer with the rear wheels also, Richard.
Well, earlier today, Army spent some time with your current national points leader, Rich Hoosier and Bigfoot, and they spoke about the rear-wheel steering.
Monster trucks are so big, in order to compete, they must have rear steering. Rich Hoosier, the driver of Bigfoot. Rich, exactly, what is the rear steering concept?
Well, with the concept of having the rear steering enables us to take these bigger trucks with the bigger tires to make a tighter turn. Say, for instance, this track we're at today, we would need this whole half-mile track if we didn't have rear steering. So for the obstacle course that we're working on today, to go down a straight course and then make a turn to come back over the cars, we need the rear steering to make that turn.
Okay, the average passenger vehicle, you steer the front wheels with a steering wheel. How do you operate the rear steer?
Well, with Bigfoot here, we operate the front with the steering wheel like a normal vehicle. And we have a spring-loaded toggle switch on the door, which is electric over hydraulic, that operates the rear with the cylinders, the hydraulic cylinders.
How do you know where the rear wheels are?
That's pretty much a guesswork. You can feel it by driving in the truck, knowing when you're straight and to know when you're going straight. Or I can look out my mirror and I can pretty much line up the tire with the bed of the truck.
Rich, it seems like a tremendous amount of dexterity is required in order to drive the vehicle. You're working the steering wheel on the front, you're working the hydraulics on the rear. How do you know what to work?
Coordination. It takes a lot of coordination to get it to come around a corner, steering this one this way and this one this way, and then try to straighten them all back up so you can be lined up for them cars.
So getting that rear wheel back in line is very, very important. We notice in the starting line, a lot of the drivers are looking to the rear, making sure that those wheels are going to track. That's what they're trying to do, is actually get the rear into track with the front, and then they start to steer.
Right, because if you take off with your rear steering turned a little too much, if you got a lot of horsepower, you could take a chance of breaking an axle.
We're going to find out if Rich Hoosier has got that coordination tonight, because he's taking on the Coors Crunch machine, the King Crunch, Scott Stevens. And as Rich said, it takes not only driving skill and power of the monster, but it takes a lot of coordination between the two.
You know, another thing we talked to Rich Hoosier about a little bit earlier was lane choice, and he's said he does not like to make this particular turn he's going to have to make. He'll be turning to his right. The Chevrolet out of the Lone Star State is going to be making a left turn. We're coming back topside with Richard with all the action.
All right, they hit the turns about the same time, but it's going to be the Badlands, Woodlands, Texas driver, Scott Stevens, over first, but here comes Bigfoot. Rich Hoosier is going to take the win again. Bigfoot moves to the semifinals, while King Crunch, the Coors machine of Scott Stevens, heads back to the Lone Star State, slowly coming over those final set of Crunch vehicles. A great race. But it was Rich Hoosier that had the power, the coordination, and the monster Bigfoot. Let's go trackside with Army in the winner.
Current national points leader, Rick Hoosier, you're doing it the hard way tonight. Everything's coming off the left side of the track. You're having to turn backwards to the way you normally like to do it. You and King Crunch just put on a war out there. How are you going to win this thing?
Well, I'll tell you, it's going to be tough. This competition's getting so hard out here these days, it's hard for everybody to get ahead.
Think you can win it tonight?
I'm going to give it everything I got.
Bigfoot, he'll be back.
And that sets up our last race in the quarterfinal round of competition. Carolina Crusher, Gary Porter against Starvin' Marvin Smith in the Stomper Chevrolet.
Now, Porter is exactly where he wants to be, Richard. He wanted to qualify or run and get in eliminations and advance to where he would get lane choice. He has chosen the left turn lane, pushing Marvin Smith in the Stomper Chevrolet Heartbeat of America over in that right turn lane. They're off and running. It's a good side-by-side shot. Let's keep an eye on them. Both of them going in the infield about the same time, Richard. Back topside to you.
It is Gary Porter with a slight advantage right now. Whoa, wait a minute. Stomper out of the course. That is a prime example as Porter crosses the finish line of how a driver does not coordinate the rear wheels with the front wheels.
Boy, a tough break. The Stomper truck was looking good to hit the infield at the same time, but the rear end did not come back and track like we were talking to Rick Tuger about a little bit earlier.
Well, you can see how critical on a tough course like this one in Toledo it is that the driver coordinate those rear wheels with the front wheels. We're going to go trackside here in just a moment. Army's going to be talking to Gary Porter about not only the course, but about the fine race he just ran and taking the win over the Stomper Chevrolet. Gary Porter moves to the semifinals.
Gary Porter with a Carolina Crusher advances to the next round of eliminations. Gary, it's looking awfully tough out there tonight.
It is real tough. This is a little tricky course. It takes good driving skills.
The middle of the track in between the two car jumps, that looks to be catching a lot of fellas off guard.
It is. If you bounce wrong off the first set of cars, you're not going to be lined up right for the second set.
We'll let you get back with the pit crew. Good luck to you in the semis.
Thank you.
And we're going to be back with the semi-final round of competition from Toledo on ESPN in a moment.